people miss about money is it's not about how much money's in the bank. Money is just a gateway to opportunity. And to be able to have the opportunity to de-risk your lifestyle is incredibly freeing, right? To be able to say, I don't feel like doing this loan because I just don't feel like doing it, versus you have to do it because you need the flow through the business to keep the wheels turning, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, So I just want people to be safe. I want people to win, but I don't want people to just make interceptions, in their life. Life
Right.
goes by quick. You don't have to do that. I think people don't realize how many opportunities there really are. Everyone feels like it's the last opportunity, right? It's like, you know what it's like? It's like you're in the ninth grade. Oh, girl broke up with me. Life's over. Bro, you got like 10 million more opportunities.
Welcome to Brick by Brick. Join me, Loren Wernette, as I share my personal journey of building a thriving real estate and hard money lending business from the ground up. Along the way, we'll explore the strategies, challenges, and breakthroughs that come with growing wealth. Whether you're a seasoned investor or aspiring entrepreneur, or simply curious about the world of private lending and real estate, this podcast is packed with actionable insights, real-world stories, and mindset tips to help you build your own path to success, brick by brick. Welcome to another episode of Brick by Brick. Today, I have a really exciting guest, Phil. Phil is the senior mortgage consultant for Next Wave Mortgage. He is a resident of Florida, and from talking to him before the show, a huge sports fan. And I'm really excited to talk to him today because I live in the world of loans and real estate investing, and that is also the world he lives in. So I'm excited to talk to him, hear about his 26 years of experience, how he's built himself up to where he's at, and some of the interesting stories from borrowers that he's had over those years. So Phil, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, it's just such an honor to be here, and I'm excited to give back to the real estate investing community.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to have you. So, Phil, I mentioned you've been in the industry for 26 years, which, most of the people I talk to haven't even been out of college for 26 years. So you have seen a lot of things in the real estate industry. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into it, some of the things you've seen over 26 years, and just, what is your general premise on the industry as a whole?
Yeah, I started May 7th, 2001. Originally I was going to go to the Peace Corps, but you had 9/11 in September, right? And then I graduated in December. I couldn't find a job. I got in, as a glorious telemarketer, but every job I take very serious, and I try to learn as much as I can. While that title wasn't good, I was just adamant on putting my head down and just learning as much as I could and go work like a machine. That's the age where you really want to develop the skills. So I'd work almost 24/7 at that point. And look, and then from there, you go from loan officer to branch manager, which was a journey, and then the mortgage broker, and then I was able to build up a really big business, and now I'm I'm the president of Next Wave Mortgage. But I will say to anyone younger, you want to take every job seriously. The industry is always going to evolve, but your work ethic cannot, right? Your focus and work ethic and wanting to be able to get better every single day cannot. And that is something that I've taken. When sometimes you'll see someone that maybe have gray hair like me, you're like, oh, he isn't great with technology, but I'm the best with technology because I have a young mind where I want to be the best, and I'm all in. And every day is the first day, in my mentality. It's not Friday for me. It's just another day. And I don't label it like that because, ultimately I want to win championships, and that drive is just really just want to keep on winning and grinding and improving everyone around me to be as good as they can be.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned something that really hit home for me was the constant drive to improve and the work ethic. And I think that the reason I have been as successful as I have been is because I constantly am looking for how can I learn something from this experience, whether it be good or for bad, and then apply it to the future. I mean, I had a job for 5 years as a digital project manager and then moved to real estate. And you think, oh, those aren't really related, but there's not much difference between a digital project manager, which is basically a general contractor, and managing a project, for a new construction build or a flip or, a loan book. There's just moving parts. You have to manage the people.
Yeah, it's a skill set. That's what a lot of people don't realize. You're building up a skill. That's the reason why, if you look at peak performance of kids, right? Kids that have peaked early, let's say in one sport, seldomly achieve high later. Not always. Like, obviously, if you're like LeBron James, but most of them actually flame out because they don't develop all of their skills, right? And if you have a more diverse skill set, later, that will help you achieve and continue this great, trajectory,
Yeah. I was actually just reading an article not too long ago just on that. My oldest son plays travel baseball, and they were talking about early bloomers. And at 11U, 12U, the early bloomers just dominate, right? But it's the late bloomers that end up doing better. And if you look at players like Skubal or Paul Skeens, like Paul Skeens didn't even start pitching until he was 26 years old. And now he just won the Cy Young and just dominating. And they don't learn that work ethic early when they're early bloomers, but the late bloomers learn it early and then get the size.
And they don't learn good behavior and how to win the day. See, this is the big thing. If you're going to win the day, then you got to win the days because they stack up, right? It's about doing your daily disciplines. And there are no shortcuts, right? Shortcuts are long cuts, right? So you got to win the day. You got to be like the same every single day, right? Like keep going Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like everything got to be the same, to really win. And if you're like, you go through your daily disciplines, then you could really start to stack. You could really start to build your emotional intelligence. And that matters more. Experience matters more, right? In fact, the number one predictor of success from college quarterback to NFL isn't completion percentage. It's not 40 time. It's actually nothing you can measure at the combine. It's starts. That is it, right? In fact, Bill Parcells had this rule that he wanted a quarterback with 24 starts, right? Or 2 years of starts, whatever it is, because the seasons are longer now. And the last, almost every quarterback in the Hall of Fame, except for 2, right? There's only been 2 Super Bowl winners that did not have 24 starts in college. You're like, well, what are they? The last one, which is Sam Darnold, who had a miserable career up until recently because he probably didn't have the experience, if you look at it. And then the other one that people point to is a little different. It's Tom Brady. But remember, Tom Brady sat for a year. He wasn't thrown in the fire. That was an outlier. That wasn't the rule. The rule is you're going to want the experience. You're going to want to do your daily disciplines. And that makes a big difference. In fact, if you look at Tom Brady's career, I think it was his junior year, he was rotating with another quarterback. And he said, why is that important? Because it always put the sense of urgency in. And the team would be down, they put him in, all of a sudden they're making a comeback, right? And you think about that. He's almost getting trained to in these unique, situational how to win. And I think that is a big thing. Is that sometimes, and that is actually why I think, when people celebrate these trophies, it's actually like a disease. I do not celebrate any trophies, right, anymore. I learned that rule. If you get a trophy, just, be nice, but put it to the side because that can be a complete distraction for you. And because it'll stop you from doing your daily disciplines, right? That is what will give you your ultimate victory is your daily disciplines.
Yeah. Yeah, you learn far more from losing than from winning.
100%.
Sure. So let's turn this to real estate a little bit because, if we're talking about doing our daily disciplines as a real estate investor, I see a ton of investors. Oh, I'm going to buy a house, right? I'm going to buy a rental property, but I don't have the $150,000 or $200,000 I need to buy the house free and clear, right? And so there's 2 lines of thinking when it comes to people that maybe don't have money to buy it. Is I need all the money or I'm going to buy it with 100% leverage. So as a mortgage, someone that's been in the mortgage industry for 26 years, talk to me about those 2 lines of thought of I need to have all the money to buy the house. I want a property that's free and clear just so I don't have to worry about ever losing it. Or I'm going to use private money. I'm going to use, second position money, and I'm going to fund this property 100%. So I have $0 into it.
Well, yeah, I would say this. 1, you definitely don't want to be over leveraged, right? 100% is bad, right? It puts all the stress, and ultimately, even if it works, a lot of your profits go away. You'll end up thinking like it's just not going to work out. It just doesn't. And it puts this like stress for you to be extra creative. And that's the best case scenario, is the extra stress to be creative. Worst case, it just, you lose, you lost, because your day can always get worse.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something I can always tell you. Your day can always get worse, right? And so do not, I would never recommend it. At the same time, if you're like, hey, I want like 100, I want to use all my money, right? One, you may be moving too slow, right? Two, you might be a little too cautious, right? And three, you may not even have checks and balances. One nice thing sometimes of actually getting the loan is that you're involving other people's expertise, right? And you're going to see what they think. If they're going to lend the money or part of it, they're going to want to make sure they do their due diligence, right? In fact, sometimes there's maybe certain companies that will get, they're board, they'll get some people are on their board with more experience, just have a sounding board, right? So it's good sometimes, to get a loan. You don't want to be over leveraged, but I would always recommend for someone to get some loan. It's usually some good idea,
So where do you see that sweet spot? So you don't want to be 100%, because at 100%, basically most of your profits are going to either your investors or they're getting chewed up. And also anybody that's listening, your Excel sheet says your profit is going to be on a monthly basis. Almost never happens when you actually own the property. The roof gets a leak, the HVAC goes out, the tenant turns, something happens, and that number drastically shrinks. And it puts you in a really bad position where now you basically aren't making any equity.
If I had to recommend for someone, I would say 25% typically, 20 to 25. Okay. That is like a good spot.
So 75 to 80%.
That's it.
LTV.
I go to 85. Customers want this. Can you go 85? Yeah, I can. But I would say 20, 25 takes away the edge.
From a mortgage standpoint, how do you feel about 85% LTV?
Right. You saw my reaction. It's a lot. People want it. I don't like it. See, this is the thing about being a mortgage broker. The good news is I can do every product. The bad news is I can do every product.
Right.
Right. Like, it's horrible. Like, I have to, sometimes I'm the worst salesperson. Like, why would you do this? Horrible. I'm all in. I'm scaling. The thing is a lot of these people that are going max leverage, they've never seen people really lose, right? The whole goal in life is, if you're winning, right, do not be the Atlanta Falcons, okay? You're up 28-3 in the Super Bowl. I have an idea. Run the ball, right? Like, it's the same thing. Like, just don't make mistakes you don't have to make, right? Do not make unforced errors. Just like sports. Just put down your 20-25. Is the reason why there's a commonality. The people that want to put down 15%, a lot of times they're trying to do 2 deals at once. This is what I find. They already have their eye on doing multiple different things. Not a great idea.
Too fast. They're trying to go too fast.
It's also that. It's not only they didn't have the money, they're also doing the reverse. And I think that's a big mistake,
Yeah. And so from a mortgage standpoint, what are the risks that you see of going up to 85%? Like we talked about a little bit about
debt service ratio. And let me explain this. I really want to get into this. So what debt service ratio means, and I want to really go slow on this, is that we look at your taxes, insurance, PMI if you have it, and your mortgage, right? So you got your complete housing expense. If that is equal to your rent, that's a 1. And I say this because on conventional financing, if the rent is, say, $1,000, the bank says we're going to minus 25%. This is not the case in this situation. So if your housing expense equals your rent, that's 1. We want, as the rent exceeds the housing expense, it exceeds 1. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4. So for instance, if your rent is $1,500 and your total housing expense would be 1, then you're at 1.5. And typically banks at a minimum 1, they like 1.2, and the higher the better, right? So when I see these leverage situations, I don't like them, right? I like when the more money you put theoretically down, the better your expense ratio is. This is something really important. And this is really hard for first-time investors because they're used to a conventional underwrite. They're thinking about,
Mm-hmm.
oh, the property's not performing, and now I'm going to add in my job as an engineer and I can kind of make it work. No, this is bad thinking, right? Here's the thinking. It's a business, this property. Is it winning? If it's making money, if it's in the black, it's greater than one. If it's less than one, it's losing money. That's called, in the red, right? You do not want to have a business in the red. This is bad. Red is bad. Black is good. So, in fact, I'll tell you a funny story. My first account, he had his company. It was called In the Black. What's black? Why in the black? He says, because everyone I work with will make money, right? I mean, imagine you had a company that was called In the Red. Like, imagine you posted on Facebook, I got a business and we're going to lose money in the beginning. We're just going to lose. You're not Amazon and Jeff Bezos, right? Like, this is real estate. You got to win day one. You got to try to win. There is no margin for losing, right? You're not going to inflate your way out of this and then hope for luck and prayers. Church will not save you in this. You need a good deal right in the beginning. And if it's not, then you do have to pass on it. Remember, an incomplete pass is better than a turnover. This is really important. Just like in sports, the number one predictor for success of an NFL team is turnovers. If you have more than 2 turnovers in a game, you lose like 92% of the turnover differential. Why does that? Because if you lose tremendously on a deal for being over leveraged, it takes a long time to recover, right? And so you don't want to be one of these people, the bigger the setback, the bigger the comeback. Let's not have a setback. How about we win from the beginning? And that's why having the right team around you, whether it's the lender, the broker, the realtor, it all matters. You don't want your friends. You don't want just yes people. In fact, the biggest loss I ever took was with a friend of mine. Like, why? He was a yes person. He was like, I wouldn't have sure I was gonna buy with him no matter what, right? But yeah, you don't want always yes people. You do want. I think that's where people go wrong for hiring people, is that they go with the yes people, and they have a poor time hiring, right? And I think because they're not getting objective advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's also important to note as a borrower, like I see borrowers all the time, they get mad, like, oh, the DSCR is, 1 or 0.9, like, but this property is going to do so great. There's an emotional component to it. And they're like, I just need the loan. I want the 6 or 7% mortgage. Let's just go for it. I'll fix it, figure it out. Well, as a borrower, you really should be looking like, I need 1.1, because you're talking about just the mortgage and just those expenses. You're not counting CapEx. You're not counting repairs. You're not counting any of those other expenses that will happen. They 100% will happen. And if you're already threading that thin line of profitability and now you have a $4,000 turn event, like, you might not have any profit for 2 years.
Yeah, this is all situational, People miss this. There's no margin. When you go less than 1, you are going to lose situationally, like every single time. Above 1, you can like get your way out of things, right? When you're a 1, you like, that is not good, And it's just like, you're like, well, what would you do? This is my only chance. Like, live to fight another day, right? It's not worth it. It just is not worth. Debt kills people, right? And if I had to give anyone any advice on this, just it's better to live another day than continue on.
But Phil, if I don't get a 1, then I won't be able to get the perfect BRRRR and I won't be able to pull all my money out of the house.
Yeah, complete nonsense. There's all this, it's like complete delusional. The facts, facts don't have feelings, and I've realized, I think, especially when you're older, with more experience, you've seen like unnecessary losses, right? Where people easily could have won games, whether it's Duke UConn that we just watched, little things when you're just up, right? How do you make a comeback? Force team to make turnovers. How do you lose when you're up big? Make unnecessary turnovers, right? Like, it's unnecessary. Like, every comeback starts with bad coaching on the opposition. right? Like you're already up. You want my advice on this? Pass. You don't have it. Then like it's the start of something bad. And it's a disease that people get because the worst thing that could actually happen for you, I'll tell you the worst thing is that you actually get lucky and it works in the beginning. Because next time this is why people get addicted to gambling. Not because they lose. You get addicted to gambling because you win. And so God forbid you got lucky once or twice. I'll tell you what will happen. Next time you're going to go 3 and 4. You're going to really push. You're going to keep pushing because you're going to think winning. And this is what happens. This is why people get in trouble, even in the law. Look at Tiger Woods, right? A guy like that is on top, they're just, I got 6 cars. I just want to drive. People don't understand it. It's like the ego that gets these people. Your ego will eventually get you that will cause you to make these like horrendous mistakes. And that's why sometimes you see these big people like fall. You're like, how did that smart person completely fall and make this horrible mistake? Because he's surrounded by yes people and he got lucky. That was like the worst. It's sometimes better to like actually lose a little and survive than to completely get lucky in these situations. You lose everything you have.
Yeah. And wins are so much smaller in most cases than the losses. Like if you have a grand slam project, maybe you walk away after a couple of years with 30 or 40K. If you have one typical loss, it could easily be 30, 40K or more. Easy, right? And so you have to really protect against those losses because they can eat up years of your wins.
I'll tell you a crazy story that like would change my mind on like a lot of things, right? So I worked at this company and there was this employee there that, and just to let people know, in mortgages, you need to be able to get your mortgage license if you're a lender, okay? Or a broker, not for a bank. I want to be very clear with this, okay? And I knew an employee that I'm still friends with. And at one of his companies many years ago, he was actually the guy that hired Jordan Belfort for Wolf of Wall Street, right? And then I'm like, dude, why am I doing mortgages with this guy? By the way, what happened to this guy was he had eventually had to leave the company I was at because he needed a mortgage license and he couldn't get a mortgage license. So banks hire you. So it's an unbelievable thing. Be like, what happened? Yeah, he had like $30 million. So he bought like all of these properties like in New York. Now think about it. You have 30 million. You don't even need like rate of return. You can just do like 0%. And I don't really care because I can't spend 30 million in a lifetime. You really can't unless you have a spending problem, right? But like what ended up happening was he took his like $30 million and he bought like a lot of properties in New York. And then when the market crashed in 2007, and this is like a really crazy story. So like on commercial loans, you submit like tax returns. This is like a really big thing. Like you submit tax returns every year. Like I have a commercial loan. It's a DSCR. As a mortgage broker, I don't do this type of commercial loan. Properties have to sometimes submit tax returns every single year. And basically when the market crashed, the tax returns and the values went down so much that the banks said, you got to put in extra money, and they couldn't. So the banks just sold the properties to get their money back, and he lost everything he had. And that was the end of it. He survived. Like he survived the whole era of Wolf of Wall Street. He survived the federal government. He survived everything, that 30 million. And then what do? Debt to income ratio over 1. That's what under 1. That's what happened, right? This is what happened. You want to know? 30 million. He had won so many times. He had defeated everyone, right? He was up so much. 30 million is like the Falcons being up 62 points. I mean, this is the reason why. This is what actually inspires me to like be like on a podcast to like help people, right? Because eventually you're just going to keep on going. It just doesn't stop because gambling gets addictive. You can keep going. We need to end it somewhere. And the somewhere should be here, that be conservative on stuff. You can always build up over time. Wealth happens in the long run. Warren Buffett was not born rich. He didn't become like a billionaire like 50 anyways, right? It just Just do it one step at a time.
Yeah. And too many people think that I've got to go from nothing to get out of my W-2 in 2 years. And so I have to leverage everything to the hilt. And to be blunt, I was guilty of this at the beginning too. Like go, figure out what you can do to get as many properties as you can, because that's the cash flow is going to make you, get you wealthy. Cash flow is not going to get you wealthy. It's the appreciation on the property that's going to get you wealthy.
No, I got a question for you. You hit it perfect, right? You hit it, boom, COVID, right? Everything got great, right? You ever say to yourself, and this is an honest question, you ever say to yourself, okay, you hit it perfect. What happens if it was reverse? I'm older. What happens if you had done this in 2007? Same thing. Like, you had like two versions of like Loren in like alternate universes.
Yeah. I mean, my entire investing career has been pretty much all in good, other than the last, maybe you could argue maybe the last 10 months. But yeah, I was in a perfect storm for it. If that happened in 27, the way I initially started, I would have been wiped out immediately. So, and would have had to rebuild.
That's exactly right. And I want to let people know that. That's the thing. And I'm not here for people not to take risks, right? Because a lot of people may be sitting there, but there's a smart way to go about it, right? And the reality is I gotta be honest with people. Like, I'm awful at picking properties. Like, if you want to lose, like, personally, I can walk you through it, right? Like, about my first property was in West Roxbury. I passed on a property in Brookline. Today, the property in Brookline is worth like $1 million. My property in West Roxbury that I sold is still worth I bought it for I bought it for 180, and I think I sold it for like 280, so I made 100. But then I bought a property in South Boston for like 250, and that did go up in a year to like 500. But then I took those and I bought a 3-family. And then, for 900, and that's worth about 2.5 million. But I bought other properties that I've like lost on, like many since. But like that one property, right, that I hit on, I set it like a 15-year mortgage and I'm making cash flow. But I'm just paying off that damn debt, right? Because I said, you know what? I'm oldest first-time father at 47. I'm paying off this mortgage. This mortgage is going to be paid off, right? And I think this is like something to it. There's no shame eventually in like paying off your mortgages. If you're up, take some off the table, get a little cash flow, live a good life,
Right.
Take away the stress.
But when you get to that position, it really just depends on what your goals are, right? Because there's also the concept on return on equity. And if you're actively still trying to grow your portfolio, it probably makes sense to, refinance some cash out and not take it personally, but take that cash and put it in other projects. But if you're at a stabilization phase, it probably makes sense to pay that down and get yourself cash flow that's stable and have a bank account house that if worst case scenario happens, you can sell it for cash and, get yourself out of a hole or buy some big opportunity or do a transfer of some sort.
I agree, but there's one caveat to that. Before you start, like when you have an LLC, you have an operational agreement, right? And even if it's yourself, right, you write down there has to be an exit strategy for your complete business, a sellout number. So if you're going to say you need a number that you're going to stop doing this, there has to be a number. Like I got a partner and Ryan Scarrett, and we have a number that we have the option, either one of us, to just like sell. Now, I love what I'm doing. And I can't envision myself, right? But there's a number where someone can, right? And by the way, our number is ridiculously high. It's kind of ridiculous. What I'm saying is that you need a number where you can eventually walk away, right? There has to be at some point, right? Or when I say not walk away, but I would say your risk
Pivot
goes way down, way down.
Yeah.
Like if I'm way up, I'm not even forget 1.1, right? Like maybe I say I don't do anything under 1.5. So, well, there's not many deals. You don't have to do deals, right? I think over time, reduce my risk substantially.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and that's what people miss about money is it's not about how much money's in the bank. Money is just a gateway to opportunity. And to be able to have the opportunity to de-risk your lifestyle is incredibly freeing, right? To be able to say, I don't feel like doing this loan because I just don't feel like doing it versus you have to do it because you need the flow through the business to keep the wheels turning, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, you know? So I just want people to be safe. I want people to win, but I don't want people to just make interceptions, in their life, you know? Life
Right.
goes by quick. You don't have to do that. I think people don't realize how many opportunities there really are. Everyone feels like it's the last opportunity, right? It's like, you know what it's like? It's like you're in the ninth grade. Oh, girl broke up with me. Life's over. Bro, you got like 10 million more opportunities.
Yeah, it's so true. I can't remember how many different deals. It's like, we have to get this deal, like it's the best deal, blah, blah. And then either whether we get it or not, 3 months later, there's another deal. There's always another deal. And it's always better to not do a deal than to do a bad deal.
I
Always.
agree. I agree. I totally agree with you, and I wish people just take a time to pause and build up, the people around you. And if you find out you're getting too many yeses, that's not good, You need a sounding board, and I know the frustration of getting no's. I get it, right? You know what I will say? I have lost, right? I'm proud to say I've lost. I've also gotten sued for things in my life. And I think looking back, I'll tell you a story that, I remember once I did something and, what I would just tell people is that it's okay to say no to things. And it's better not to do things that are unnecessary. That's a good way to put it. You don't want to take unnecessary risk. It's not needed.
So I'll give you a good example story of that. So I was doing flips with my business partner. I really wanted to do a flip with my friend. Okay. And so I found this house, walked the house, looked like a pretty good project. Didn't do a great, like I didn't crawl through the crawl space, didn't look at, we were basically just going to flip it. So we had a budget of $70,000 to renovate the house. We started ripping it apart after we bought it. And we found termites galore, just everywhere. We got a stop work order. We had to rebuild part of the foundation. Our $70,000 budget turned into a $140,000 spend. And the blessing was we sold it for more than we originally thought. We ended up losing about 10 grand, which isn't terrible. But the moral of this story is, don't want to do something so bad that you don't do your full due diligence. And we would have lost way more money if we hadn't had cash. Because we were able to sustain that additional $70,000 of renovation costs, we were able to get out with only a $10K loss. If we had to sell it because we were just straight up out of cash and it needed all the work, we would have probably taken almost $100,000 loss.
Yeah, your friend's lucky that he had you.
Well, he had money too, but because he was actually a more experienced flipper,
assume, right?
Yeah, we both had experience. We just hadn't worked together on anything before, and I wanted the experience of working with him on something. And so I found the project. I should have looked at it closer, but we were together able to work it out and get it done. And I don't think that would have been successful as it was successful without both of us involved. But we wouldn't have been able to successful. We didn't have money. He had some money. I had some money.
Have you guys done deals since?
We haven't, because one of my other key lessons I learned was when you have a system and a process in an existing business, it's so much easier just to stay in that system than try to do something outside of it, kind of out of the one-off, because you don't have the CRMs, you don't have all the other tools that you're used to, and it becomes just hard to manage, and it takes your focus off of the things that you're actually driving the ball for.
I agree with you. I totally agree.
That was my
I'm the same way.
That was my biggest learning in 2024. I had a wholesale business, a flipping business, a rental business. I had a W-2, 4 kids, and basically everything was growing just a little bit, but not much. And so once I shut down the wholesale business, the flip business, sold the rentals, just focused on the lending and got rid of my W-2, the lending business just skyrocketed. And it's that dedicated focus is what drives things forward. And when you're spreading yourself out too thin, nothing can grow.
Dude, I totally agree. When people want to do everything, they usually do it kind of crappy. You're better partnering than you are with a lot of things than like trying to do it on your own. It's like real estate companies that want to do mortgages, they're better off just partnering, right? The minute they do these things, it doesn't necessarily work, And that's what I've learned, and I've been able to like grow the mortgage company with my partner, Ryan, substantially. And that's been really good. And we've been able to because I've been able to focus in on like the marketing ends. and just have a laser focus. We're like, we have over 200 websites that generate us like right now over 1,500 leads. I was complaining to my partner that I have an appointment like every 30 minutes of a new client. Here people are, they can't even get deals. And I have I'm exhausted from you're like, why? Because I'm able to focus in on, we do something, there's people that own businesses, but I'll just explain it quickly. We do something called domain matching. So the number one program in Florida for down payment assistance is Hometown Hero Loan Program. We own that domain, right? In fact, we're so good at it. I'll tell you a really funny story. We had a company that went to us and they said, you have a trademark violation. They came to me and the CEO, he wrote me this letter and I thought he was going to shut me down or whatever, sue me. But no, he's like, let's hop on a Zoom. And we just started talking and we're going to partner. He's like, dude, you're so genius of the way you do things, right? He's like, I think he was more impressed with me than his own marketing department. He had his own marketing department on the second Zoom and we were laughing, right? And because I was able to focus in on one task, right? Grow marketing, right? And I think also people in their business need certain roles, right? That's why if you're trying to win a championship, everyone has to have their own role, right? Of exactly what you do in your operational agreements, right? Don't get distracted. Mine is marketing. So it's not like I don't take other marketing ideas from other people. I always vet things out, right? But at the end of the day, I'm in charge of the marketing. It's in our operational agreement, right? I'll make the final calls. I think this is really important when you run a business. And even if it's homes, coffee shops, whatever it is, everyone has to have the same role. Once that one person does too much, it is not going to work. And the same thing in sports, right? If you have an offensive coordinator and you're the head coach, back off. Let your offensive coordinator, ultimately come up with the right plays to win you the game, or your defensive. That's why you hired the guy in the first place. If you don't trust them, you shouldn't have hired him.
Yep.
Right? You got to trust the people you hired. That's why you hired them. I know ultimately that's a bad mistake that people make, right? As an operator, is not trusting your people. And this is actually one of the things I learned. I'll tell you a quick story of why you need to trust yourself. That my ex-father-in-law, great guy, his best friend had one of the biggest what do you call him? A restaurateur? I don't know what you call it. He owns a lot of restaurants and a lot of real estate.
Restaurateur.
Yeah. And I said, oh, is this guy and by the way, he has a hotel. That's the number one hotel in New England. I won't say what it is, but it's the highest rated. It's not even close for many years, right in Boston. And I said, is this guy a great cook? Could he, is he a great cook? Is it much fun to go out with him? Is what is he? He's like, no, he can't do any of this. Is he a great accountant? No. I said, well, what is his best skill? What is his superpower that he could do better than everyone else to build up this real estate and restaurant and now potato chip empire, right? Well, what does he do? Hire people. He's the best at hiring people. He can't even cook a grilled cheese, but he can hire people. And he probably is also really good at trusting the people he's hiring. But it's funny. You see people like that. So how does that apply to you when if you're going to hire them, you got to you can't overmanage and ruin and step in, right? You got to sometimes trust your people to do the job, right? Obviously someone's failing, but I feel like people make bad hires. And, if you hire correctly, you got to trust your people because you're going to overstep, right? And this is the big thing. You got to trust, you got to trust your people, right? In fact, I think this is the hardest thing with, in sports is that all your good people eventually get taken from you, right? I mean, if you go look at Indiana football, Cignetti was what? Coordinator for what? Alabama, right? And where was Nick Saban originally? Michigan State. Well, geez, maybe Michigan State should have hired Cignetti and Michigan State wins the what? Big Ten championship. It all comes full circle. Hire good, and it will solve a lot of problems.
I think so. I 100% agree with you. I think the challenge comes in, it's easier to say than do, especially when you're starting a business. And I will back that up with this. When you start a business, before you can hire anybody, you have to be good at, or at least kind of good at most of the things, right? And so what gets you to the point where you can afford to hire someone is the same thing that will hold you back from being a good manager of people, because you were good at doing all the things and now you don't want to let go of those things and give them to someone else, which then stifles your business and makes you a bad employer. And so what got you here is not going to get you to the next step. And making that transition is something that a lot of entrepreneurs really struggle with.
Well, you got to trust people. I'll tell you this, I'm dyslexic, so I know I can't do certain things. So I got to like sub out certain things. That's the great thing about being dyslexic. This is why a lot of actually entrepreneurs are dyslexic and can do really well. And it's like counterintuitive, because you'd be like, dude, you're getting things like mixed up when you write, or your things are backwards. Well, you can't do something. So you got to like sublet that thing out, right? Like you have to let it like rip, right? And I totally get that, right? You got to be able to trust, and you got to be able to let go, right? But you got to be able to get the right people. I'll tell you this, when it comes to hiring, the one tip I will say, the one thing I really like, where I'm like right on it, right? I can tell my partner right away if someone's going to be great. What I look for, right? When I know someone's going to be great, I'll tell you what I look for. They'll be awesome. I love people that are annoying. This is actually the biggest thing. Like, you're like on it. Like, this person's like on it, like all over you, right? I love that. They're going to be really great. Even if they don't know much, like overwhelm me with questions or whatever. People that want to learn, people that want to figure things out, the real go-getters, they're going to be like glue all over that person. Those make the best salespeople. They're going to be like, they're not going to allow that space. They're going to full core press that person. That's what I look for. We were going through like who I thought of the new hires would be great. I could tell my partner right away. He's like, how do you know? Like, boom, that guy great, this guy great. Nope, nope, no. You're like, why? They don't have it. It's obvious to me right away if someone's going to be. I could go through right away. I'm not even going to miss. I'm going to be like at 100%, 99.9. It won't take me long, because that skill is like obvious for success and mortgages and real estate. You want that person that's a go-getter, that's all over it, because you're going to be, they'll be a sponge, and you're going to pick it all. They'll pick it all up, and they're going to be into the daily activities and the grind. So they're going to really succeed very quickly, right? The person that's not all over things is going to be terrible. Not terrible, but they're not going to be the overachiever. I'm not going to be interested in that type of a person. That's how I know right away when I know someone's going to succeed. I know, right? It doesn't take me long. This is very quick, right? I just see a little bit of the person. And, as we hire people who I think will be good or bad, I know there is no mistake. Like, I'm not, are you wrong ever? No, never wrong on these things. I might hire wrong originally, but for me to identify if they'll be great, even if they're not great right away, I'll be right 100%. In fact, in my career on this, I've been told with other managers to go fire people. And I said, no, they're annoying. They're going to be great in my mind. And I kept them on. Even sometimes when I was ordered to fire them or let them go, I kept them on, and I was proven right. I've never been proven wrong by this strategy of like, that is to me like the biggest telltale, because there'll be a sponge and you're like, they're and also you're not going to have to eventually like babysit that type of person that will allow you to scale.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you think that applies to all roles or just the sales type roles?
All roles. I want people that are all over it. Like, I'll give you an example. My dad's a cardiologist. I know what he's like. He's all over people. You want to win a championship? You're all over. Kobe Bryant, he's the same thing. Michael Jordan, annoying. Now, Michael Jordan, like, punched someone. What do you think he punched someone? He was all over them. He knew their role better than them. Tom Brady, all over them. You give me someone that's, these best people are all, like, you find like someone that's going to be all over that person. Like, that's what I'm looking for. That's going to win in sports. It's going to win in business. It's what I look for new people. I don't want people that are not all over people. I want someone all over. I say, go do something. You're going to be like all over, full court press the whole way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like all intense and curious versus annoying, but I definitely get the
whatever you want to put it, right? You could rewrite it different ways, put it through ChatGPT, make it nice and whatever. But like, curious, nice, okay, we're going to fluff it up, but it's the same thing. It's going to be the person that hustles, that dives for the ball. It's going to be the person that wants to know every rule and question it. because there's two types of people, gatherers and interpreters. I'm ultimately looking for interpreters, right? I want self-motivating interpreters, right? People that want to interpret, that see the data, that can interpret it. Because even if you're trying to cheat and you ChatGPT or Gemini, input in, input out, right? It's only as good as you'll just get the wrong garbage, right? I see this all the time where people write wrong things, right? So you're like, well, what do you think? I don't know, right? Like I would definitely, right? Like that's what I look for. And I think that's what ultimately and you're not going to have to bother those people. Like they're going to be already over it. So when you're on vacation, that they're not going to want to see anything fail.
Yeah. Yep. I 100% agree with that. So we skipped over something and I want to go back to it. You mentioned that you have 200 sites that you use for lead generation. Talk to me about, because most people have struggle to get one site. Talk to me about the precipice of, hey, I'm going to start generating all these micro sites. Why did you start doing that? What did you see that made you want to do that? And how are you managing that many sites?
Yeah, it was an accident. We had a major site, make Florida your home. And then Google started to change the way they were doing things, the way they were doing search, right? So we quickly realized you cannot beat Zillow straight up. I'm going to be honest with every single person here. Like if you're a coffee shop owner, you're not beating Starbucks straight up. Not happening, right? So we knew we couldn't beat Zillow straight up, okay? So we're like, what are our best performing pages? Where are we getting our traffic from, right? And we discovered that, I'll give you an example. Our first hit was Hometown Hero Loan Program. It was the Hometown Heroes Loan Program in the state of Florida, the #1 program. So we got the domain. We domain matched. And that's exactly what we discovered of how it works. It works so well, right? In fact, it works so well, I got a private jet company that wanted to help me get free trips around wherever. It works in any industry. If you wanted me to be the #1 coffee shop, I easily could. You're like, because our ego will say, do philgans.com. No one is searching for Phil. That's not an answer. That's my ego, right? Google works like this. Type in a question, you get an answer. ChatGPT, you get a question, you get an answer. Question, answer, question, answer. Be the answer in life. Domain match the answer. If you took your top 100 answers and you own the domain as that, then obviously Gemini, Google will just make that come up. And you're like, does it work? Bro, I can't even keep up as we're going on. We're on this podcast. Lead, right? Appointment. Just doesn't stop, right? I can't be stopped. In fact, it's led to, you're like, well, what has it led to? #1 realtor partnership in Florida, LPT Realty, right? They partner with Zillow. Regal, we've partnered with in Texas. #1 in Texas, right? I was on a Zoom with these people. I'm a mortgage guy, right? What are the odds that you could be on a Zoom with two people that do 500 and a billion, right? It's because when you do something really well, the big people will want to start to introduce you, right? And this is the big thing. You're like, well, how would I beat Zillow in North Carolina? Well, here's, and we're trying to figure out the real estate, we might try to figure out the real estate, but I'd probably go neighborhood, city, not even the city. You need to win the local neighborhoods and be the answers and cobble those up, right? If you had 200 websites that were only in a part of a city, you'd be the #1 realtor in a part of a city, which means you're probably going to make a lot of money, right? You're going to get so much because you'll be the answer. You'll be the authority. And that's how you do it, right? That's how we did it, right? And we're making things better. It's not about putting up crap either, right? It's, there's a method to our madness. And I did simplify it, but my strategy is 100% right. I don't need philgans.com. If you want to see, like I said, it was ego, make floridayourhome.com, yeah, it's a good site, right? But it doesn't get all the leads that we have, right? I'd be out of business if it was make Florida your home. I'd be out of business for these websites, right? But I got 200.
I'm not 100% understanding the domain matching. I'm not aware of that. Can you give me an example what that is, how it works? It's not clicking.
Okay. So the #1 program in Florida is Hometown Hero Loan Program. I own the website www www.hometownheroloanprogram.com.
Got it.
So when the people of Florida put that in Google, I come up number one.
Got it.
And I have this 200 times.
Okay. So it's the same website, just a different domain, but
different
the answer to
content
what's
based
searching.
on what that domain is, right?
Okay.
If I'm
got it.
doing, a loan program for down payment assistance, I'm going to try to domain match that program and then just write the
Got it.
information.
Got it. Okay. So if it's Florida Bridge Loans or something like that, then it's your
Correct.
domain dash
And the
bridge
more
loans,
niche,
and then
the
it's got
better.
content.
Correct.
Got it.
The more niche,
Okay.
the better. The big mistake that people make, it's counterintuitive. They go too wide. They go too wide. And sometimes what happens is that when I hit it the first time, like a lot of people this is the big issue. A lot of smart people go by data, right? Like say you work at, say, Bank of America, right? And you hired a marketing person. That person does not do loans, right? Just take my word on it. They probably don't do loans, right?
Sure.
So they don't have intuition. They have none. So they go to CMrush, which for people on the podcast, it's like a data collector for like web, so you can like get all the hits of how popular websites are, right? Or keywords, right? Keyword tools or Neil Patel or Ahrefs, right? So some of our biggest hits that we have had is where the results have been zero. And this is the crazy part of the story, is that it's so counterintuitive. Because think about it. The marketing people don't do mortgages, right? And the mortgage people don't do marketing. They're not allowed because of the compliance. You're like, no way. Yeah, right? It's the wildest thing. So you're like, oh, dude, so like no one's doing it because the mortgage people or even the real estate people, if they ask their compliance people, they'll probably say no, right? They won't be allowed to do it. It starts with a no. And then the marketing people, if you ask them, so what's the last mortgage you did? They're like, never. Well, I got my master's at Harvard, okay. Have you done a mortgage? No. Have you flipped a home? No. Have you done anything? No. But I went to a school that taught me and I got this fancy degree and I like Grey Poupon and Havarti cheese. Come on. They've never won. They've never experienced it. They don't have any intuition. So a lot of the hits I've had, now I'm not saying like just go with the zeros or whatever, but a lot of the things that I've hit, right? And then like people will say, you ever wonder why? Like you'll see some domain that sells for like $8 million or $6 million. And I go, why wasn't that bought before? Right? Because someone bought it with intuition. It's like if you're Tom Brady, you throw where the receiver will be, not where they are. This is like a big thing where sometimes people miss. And sometimes you do need to go with your gut. Where are they going to be, not where they are? If they just, and I'm not saying you just go with just where they're going to be, but that is the key, to hitting, like if you're trying to hit a home run and you're trying to like do it, if I was to do it, and I did come up with some great ideas for my buddy that did like private jets, right? Of how I would like totally dominate like this. And while most people would probably look at private jets and, I would try to solve problems, right? And like when like FedEx has an oil spill and it delays mail, I'd start buying microsites, like, finding solutions for people. Want to be the answer in life. This is the key. All experts are the answers. And if you can be the expert on a microsite, then you will come up. And that's what I would say to anyone listening the answer. And it took a while and it took me to lose a lot of money. And I'll tell you, the height of Make Florida Your Home, you're almost at 60,000 clicks a month. And we were getting, and our biggest thing was we were getting so many leads we couldn't stop. It all changed like this. Google took it all away. This is what I would say. Easy come, easy go. And you got to change and evolve. And maybe what will be around in the future won't be what I'm saying today. But if you're like, could I make someone number one? Like, yeah. Am I thinking about trying to do this for real estate? Of course I am. Right? I'm trying to look, if we all work together, we can beat Zillow. Do I think Zillow is going to get beaten? Yeah, and I'm working on it, right? With the right partnerships. I am working on trying to beat Zillow. There's no doubt, right? But I can't beat them straight up. You think I can beat? No. But can they be? I can't beat them. Okay, I can't beat Zillow in 50 states. Do I think I'm going to beat Zillow in Florida? That's the goal. My goal is to beat Zillow in Florida, which is just a monumental task on its own. But what does that look like? That means partnerships with other real estate companies in Florida, in Texas, and everyone coming together to try to accomplish this. This will not happen as one company. This is like a monumental task that will happen.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, I appreciate the explanation. So if anybody's interested in finding out more about you, reaching out, finding about your loan products, where can they get a hold of you, Phil?
Just old school. While I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram at Phil Ganz, here's my number. 617-529-9317, 617-529-9317. Just send me a text. I'll be honored to help you, and I'll get back to you right away. And, I'm here to help.
Awesome. And I will make sure those links and that phone number is in the show notes so that anybody can easily find that. It's been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed talking to you. A lot of energy. Is a good way to start my morning. Anything you want to add before we kind of sign off that we didn't talk on, or just some final words of wisdom?
Yeah. View the pie as let's work together and get the pie bigger, right? When you look for partnerships, let's grow the pie together. It doesn't have to be just try to get the bigger slice. Sometimes in life, the best way to win is through collaboration and just grow the pie. Sometimes your slice can get smaller, but if the pie gets bigger, we all win together. And that's what I'll leave it with.
100%. Better to have a slice of a watermelon than a whole grape. So, well, Phil, thank you for your time today. It's been an honor. And for everyone out there, thank you for joining Brick by Brick. Make sure you like and follow, and we will talk to you again next week. Thanks for tuning in to Brick by Brick Wealth Building Conversations. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more people find the show. For more tips, resources, and updates on my journey, follow me on Invest with Loren. Let's keep building wealth, one brick at a time. See you next week.